Good afternoon. It's May 24th, 2011. This is Ryan at xcannabis.com. I'm reporting on a few issues and I'm discussing a political topic that I've been on the radio about recently, as well as, in my social life on Facebook and with friends and family. I am a supporter of the National Initiative for Democracy. And on a radio show with Carl Olson recently, I got criticized for supporting Ron Paul because Ron Paul doesn't support everything that I believe in. But I just wanted to illustrate this with a couple of video clips that you're going to see at the end here. I'm also going to include a clip from a movie from 1977 called Billy Jack Goes to Washington, where they talk about a national initiative process, which is very similar, which is almost identical to what Senator Mike Gravel, former Senator Mike Gravel of Alaska, is talking about and is proposing via the Democracy Act. Now, the third party issue is a major issue for me because I've been supporting third parties not because I believe in 90% of what they believe in or 50% of what they believe in. I've supported Ralph Nader even though, as I understand it, he supports abortion and I do not. He supports other things that I do not because I believe that third parties should have a voice in politics. I've never thought that Ralph Nader would get elected. I've never thought that for a minute. I am in the same position that Ron Paul stated when he went on CNN with Ralph Nader in an interview supporting third-party candidates, not because he believes they're going to get elected, but because he believes they deserve a voice in politics that they're not getting. Now, the debate commission, which is made up of the the former president of the Republican National Committee and the former president of the Democratic National Committee, both of those people who are sponsored by corporations like Anheuser-Busch and others, that's who's supporting these debate commissions and these committees and these debates, these national presidential debates. Well, they exclude third parties. They set criterias that third parties can't meet. It doesn't matter if some of these third parties have 15% of the vote in one state or 6% of the vote of the other state. It doesn't matter because them getting their word out there depends on big corporate donations. And these big corporate donations help them buy media and advertising and whatever. Well, they don't get that because their interests are more for the will of the people, in my estimation, especially when it comes to Ralph Nader, who's a consumer advocate, and Ron Paul, even though he's mainstream and he's elected, and Mike Gravel, even though he was a mainstream party, Democratic Party, even though these people who are getting through to the people and getting high up on the polls in many of these polls, and even though they're recognized as a so-called factor in the debates, they don't get to get their opinions heard by the debates, by the people, or by traditional means. And that's because they've been excluded from the debates. If you watch in October of 2000, when Ralph Nader had a ticket to get into Kripke Auditorium, University of Massachusetts, he had a ticket given to him to be in the audience. It was given to him by a Harvard student, and he got there with other people who were going to be in the audience, and he tried to get into the audience, and they wouldn't let him through the gate. They had the debate commission, or the debate committee, had the state police block him from even getting into the audience. Fox News invited him to be on their show and give commentary, and they were at the debate. They were at the national debates, the presidential debates, and they wouldn't even let Ralph Nader get on their van that was parked there at Kripke Auditorium. They blocked him with the state police. You can see that video either on xcannabis.com. I've uploaded it there, or you can view it on YouTube. But it's crap the way that third parties are excluded, and I support third parties. I support Ron Paul the same way. Now, Carl Olson chided me about supporting Ron Paul, who backed a bill by Barney Frank to reschedule cannabis to a Schedule II. I don't agree with Schedule II. I also don't agree with abortion. However, I've supported Ron Paul and I've supported Ralph Nader. Both of these people don't have to line up 150% with what I believe in for me to support them. It's a statement, it's an opinion, it's it's a demonstration rather than, hey, this is exactly what I am and they represent me 100%. Now, that's not how it is, and that's not how it should be. I don't expect people are going to adhere to everything I believe in order to get my support. I think that's wrong. And that's another reason why I support the National Initiative for Democracy. The National Initiative for Democracy, I'm going to put a couple of clips here, one of them from that Billy Jack Goes to Washington from 1977, and then also from Mike Gravel on this topic. And then after that, I'll also post that interview with Ralph Nader and Ron Paul, and I will demonstrate my perspective of why I support this or why I support that. But I think that direct democracy is better than corporate socialism. Corporate socialism, as I define it, is the corporations donate, say, $150 million to fund the Democrats, and then $150 million to support the Republicans. They have their hands in both cookie jars, and they're funding both sides so that both sides owe them favors, and at the end they get a 1,000% return on their investment. They get government contracts, they get corporate bailouts, they get laws passed to favor their industry. That's what corporate socialism is. And I don't agree with corporate socialism. Now, I'm not saying direct democracy is 100% bulletproof. I'm just saying that it's harder to influence 240 million voters or whatever we got than it is to influence the 535 representatives in Congress. These people can be bought out much easier when there's a smaller pool with greater power than it is to influence 220 million people, or 240 million, how many ever voters there are, with money. Money means very little when you have to spread it that thin. You know what I mean? But if you're saying, hey, Senator Lieberman, I'm going to give you, so-and-so, support for this campaign or that campaign, or I'm going to help you pass this bill if, you do this, and that's how it works in Washington. We all know that. Nobody's stupid to that. And that's why I believe direct democracy would be better. Now, it's not 100% bulletproof, but we still have the Congress, we still have the courts, we still have the executive branch, and those people still exist the way they exist now. It's just we have one more threshold or one more tier to imbalances of our government via people's vote. Direct democracy, which, if we don't like this law or we don't like that law, we can change it. If the courts deem it unconstitutional, they can overturn it. But they can't overturn it before it gets voted on. It gets voted on, it gets passed, the court can review it and say, well, we can't use that law because it violates this, this, and this of our Constitution. So our constitutional republic stays intact, but it also has, as we have in other forms, democratic purposes and democratic policies. So when we have ballot initiatives on a state level, or when we have voting rights, well, that's democracy. I'm not saying we live in a democracy, we live in a constitutional republic, but we have a constitutional republic with some democratic principles. And those democratic principles are important to a free country, which, the founders of this country, really drove. If you look at it, the framers, as we call them, really drove that, and that's why I think that democracy is important, and I think that it's been successful. Where it's failed is where corporations are represented in government, and where corporations get benefits from their power and their money, as opposed to just their vote or their logic. And money can buy a lot of things, including a vote. So I am against that. I'm against the whole idea of corporate socialism, and that's why I believe direct democracy can fix that via the National Initiative for Democracy. And you can learn more about it at www.ni4d.us. And I'll put a video on that at the end of this too, about the constitutionality of the National Initiative for Democracy, which I think is highly important and a good study. Even if you don't support it, learn about it. Learn about how our Constitution was formed and how our country became what it is today. It's on the same principles as this Democracy Act is. Peace.
And also, as I've been telling you, we're about to sit down with both Ron Paul and Ralph Nader together here in the Situation Room. The failed GOP presidential hopeful is saying yes to third-party candidates like Nader, saying no to a fellow Republican like John McCain. And Ron Paul explains why.
Presidential elections turn out to be more of a charade than anything else. And I think that is true today. It is a charade.
And Republican Congressman Ron Paul has a message for John McCain. No, Ron Paul won't endorse his own party's nominee, and he urges what some think is a radical idea. Congressman Paul is here along with the independent presidential candidate, Ralph Nader. They're here together to explain what's going on. Ralph Nader right now polling at 6% in Michigan. We'll be right back.
Thank you very much.
Republican Congressman Ron Paul of Texas rejected calls to endorse Senator McCain and won't endorse Barack Obama either. And Ron Paul is urging voters to turn their backs on both candidates right now. He's had a strong following of dedicated supporters online. He's raised some $35 million during his own primary bid for the Republican presidential nomination. So how are they reacting to his announcement? All of his supporters, our internet reporter Abby Tatton is following the story. Abby, what are you seeing online?
Well, Congressman Paul still has this following. Just last week in St. Paul, this rally for the Republic attracted thousands of his supporters. And since this announcement today, we've been checking in on what they've been saying online since Dr. Paul announced his support for third-party candidates, that supporters could get behind one of these. Checking in on the reaction on the forums and the websites where these supporters organize, it's fair to say that the reaction from them today is mixed. There are those who want to buy the bumper sticker for this idea already, but then there are others who are saying, sure, I'll support a third-party candidate, but only because it's what Dr. Paul wants me to do. It's really him that I want to support. And then as for which one of them they want to get behind, well, that's hard to discern. On the Ron Paul forums right now, there's a fierce debate about who they don't want to vote for rather than who they actually want to support. So it's early days right now, but it's fair to say that there's no money bomb or third-party blimp being organized just yet.
We'll see. We'll wait for that as well. All right. Thanks, Abby, very much. Let's talk about what's going on right now with third-party candidates. Joining us here in the Situation Room is Ron Paul, the congressman himself, and he's here together with the independent presidential candidate, Ralph Nader. Gentlemen, thanks very much for coming in.
You're welcome.
I tell our viewers, Congressman, why you decided to reject your fellow Republican, John McCain.
He doesn't represent anything I believe in. You know, I believe what Republicans should believe. And I campaigned on that and got a lot of support, but I can't support somebody that virtually disagrees with all my positions.
What about Barack Obama?
Well, I don't think he agrees anymore, so and I don't see any difference between the two candidates. I know there's a lot doing, and you have to have a horse race going, and you know, you have to talk about something, but really there's no difference. And that was part of, we think the system is very biased. Our system doesn't allow alternative candidates, third-party candidates, but the debate isn't there either, because they pick on little things, and the issues that we picked out, we hardly hear anything.
Because I know that, so is it fair to say, you're saying you want a third-party candidate to win? Would that candidate be the man sitting next to you right here in the Situation Room, Ralph Nader?
No, Ralph is a good friend, but we agree on tactics and what we're doing, and we agree on these very important issues. But quite frankly, he probably wouldn't have joined my campaign, and I probably won't join his campaign.
So you won't vote for him?
No, I don't plan to.
Who do you
I
want
plan to get as many votes for him as possible, because it will take the votes away from Obama, and that's where we have the agreement.
So you want to stop Obama? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I want to change the system. I want Ralph Nader and the third-party candidates, all of them, to be in the debate. I mean, that's the only debate. There's no debate going on.
All right, so
this is a ritual. This is a charade.
Let's bring in Ralph Nader. What's your goal right now? You're not going to be elected president of the United States. You know that. Ron Paul knows that. What is your goal in aligning yourself, in effect, with Ron Paul?
Well, if we're under president's debates, it might be a Jesse Ventura three-way race. But yet today we put together
3 presidential debates, yeah. But the Presidential Debate Commission has set a bar that's pretty hard for you to overcome.
Yeah, since it's controlled by the two parties, as you know. Today, I think it was a historic day because we, Ron Paul and the candidate for the Green Party, the candidate for the Constitutional Party, and me and Bob Barr agreed on 4 major areas. Foreign policy, get the soldiers back, end the war in Iraq, stop being imperialistic. Privacy, deal with the repeal of the Patriot Act, the revision of FISA, Military Commissions Act, and, you know, get rid of torture, And the third is the national debt. You know, deficits are now used for reckless government adventurism.
The national debt has nearly doubled over the last year.
And the Iraq War is financed from deficit spending.
And the fourth issue?
And the fourth issue is the Federal Reserve is now a government within a government. It is totally out of control. Congress doesn't control it. It's funded by the banks. And we either have constitutional government or we don't. Because of this, well, here's the question. Is there anything left for the American people to decide about their country?
Here's what the CNN Opinion Research Time Magazine poll shows in two key battleground states right now. In Michigan, 45 Obama, 42 McCain, Ralph Nader, 6%, Bob Barr, 2%, Cynthia McKinney, 1%. In New Hampshire, another battleground state, Obama 48, McCain 43, Nader 4%, Bob Barr 2%. You know the accusations, Ralph Nader, that were leveled against you in 2000, that you stole the election in effect from Al Gore. He would have carried Florida if you had not been a candidate. You got 90,000 plus votes in Florida. He lost by 500 votes. What do you say to those people who are saying you're just trying to spoil this election right now for Barack Obama?
I say two things. They're factually wrong about 2000. If you ask Al Gore why he lost, he'll say it was the Electoral College because he won the popular vote and it was stolen from him in a whole variety of ways before, during, and after Election Day from Tallahassee to the 5 politicians on the Supreme Court. Now, I have news for you. The last 4 major polls, when they poll Obama and McCain, and then they poll Obama, McCain, and they put Nader Gonzalez in the poll, McCain does worse. Does worse.
So you think your presence hurts McCain more than Obama?
That's what the polls say. And
what do you think?
It's explained on our website, votenader.org.
I have no idea. We have to wait and see. But some people say, well, you're going to hurt McCain. And I'm not hurting anybody. But I expect that there'll be as many votes. Maybe they will come from the liberals that will vote.
Ron Paul, you and I...
The two parties are hurting our country.
I want both of you to answer honestly. Both of you are straightforward. You have nothing to hide. Give me your honest assessment right now. Who is the lesser of two evils right now, John McCain or Barack Obama?
I don't do that. Evil is evil. If you vote for one that you think is a little less, actually, you get tricked into that. You think that you vote for a Republican to balance a budget, and they're worse than the Democrats. That's what the people are sick and tired of. You vote for the Democrats to end the war, and they expand the war as much as the Republicans.
I'll rephrase the question for Ralph Nader. Who is the lesser of two bads right now?
The lesser of two bads is not good enough for the American people. We need the best.
But you agree. You've been watching politics all these years. It's unrealistic to assume a third-party candidate is going to be elected president of the United States.
No, we can push the two parties to address what's troubling the American people, economically, politically, socially, for their children.
So your goal is to get these 4 issues on the agenda. And on these 4 issues that you're talking about, who's better? Which are these 2 presidential candidates?
They're both bad on these 4 issues. The great constitutional questions about who's going to run this country in all kinds of ways, the people or the domination of the corporations over our government, are off the table for McCain and Obama.
One final question for Ron Paul. You say you're not necessarily going to vote for Ralph Nader, but you want a lot of your supporters to vote for Ralph Nader. Will you go out there and do what you so successfully did during the primary campaign, raise money on the internet for these third-party candidates?
Probably not, because it's tough raising money for somebody else. We're doing this for some congressional candidates, and it's not as easy as when you're the candidate himself. So I don't think I will do that, but I want to be engaged in the issues and try to push this country. But I really want American people to wake up and challenge the system. You can't get on debates. You can't get on the ballots. The parties are the same. There's really no choice in the system. We don't have good democratic process here. We go to overseas and fight wars to promote democracy. At the same time, we listen to these glib debates going on that's really irrelevant to these 4 important issues. That's what our goal is.
Which our majority support.
And we're going to focus in on those issues because we want to make sure that we get to the bottom of these critical issues for all of our viewers. Ron Paul, Ralph Nader, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Wolf.
Some might say you're the ultimate odd couple, but I'll leave that for some of the commentators and pundits.
Talk to the American people.
We'll see what they say.
Check out the constitutional safeguards. That's the key here.
Thanks, guys.
You got to help me just for, I don't know what that is, the national initiative.
Well, the initiative basically means that people can write their own laws, and if they get enough signatures on petitions, then it goes on the ballot for all the people to vote on. And if 50% plus 1 of the people vote for the law, it becomes the law of the land.
So you want this instead of a Congress?
This will belong.
No, it'll be as well as the Congress. The Congress can do their work. They can get the laws through. They'll continue the same way they're going on now, through bribery mostly. But this will be, in addition, this will be a chance for the people themselves to have a direct say in the government.
It costs so much now to get elected that the congressmen aren't any of them free. They belong to the people who paid for their elections. They don't belong to us at all.
I mean, how many times have you heard someone complaining about something but totally unable to do anything about it?
And besides that, it makes government responsive to the people. I mean, you need an alternative route. If the Congress is bought out on an issue, like they are on nuclear power, for example, you need an alternative route for the people. And when they get mad, there should be a creative response by the people. Think of what would have happened in 1967 and 1968 during the Vietnam War. If the people could have gone and petitioned and put on the ballot a vote against the Vietnam War, we would have ended it in 1968.
We wouldn't have had to have the demonstrations. We wouldn't have had to have the Kent States.
Yeah. Might not have had to have the war.
It's also going to influence the members of Congress because they like to be on the right side of an issue. And if they know it's a very controversial issue and there's going to be a national initiative if they don't take action, they're going to be more hesitant about it. They're going to say, it's going to make me look like a fool. They're going to be more careful.
Yes, me friend, them set me free again. Yes, me friend, me dip on street again. The bars could not hold me, force could not control me now. They tried to keep me down, but God put me around. Yes, I've been accused, wrongly abused now, but through the powers of the Most High, they got to turn me loose. Don't try to hold me up on this bridge now. I've got to reach Mount Zion, highest ridge. If you are Bull Bucker, let me tell you that I'm a dopey conqueror, conqueror. Yes, me friend, me good friend, them set me free again. Yes, me friend, them turn me loose again. Don't try to hold me up on this bridge now. I've got to reach Mount Zion, highest ridge, y'all. If you are Bull Bucker, let me tell you, I'm a dopey conqueror. Get it? Conqueror. Yes, me friend, me friend, me friend. We did a street again. Yes, me friend, me friend, me friend. Them set me free again. Don't try to show. We make you friend them love. What a la la. For I will cut you off. And I will take the last off. I'm crying. Yes, me friend. Me take a street up.